So we've been talking about these 5 things that in your crazy things you might hear at church series called five faith catalysts. And the reason we call them catalysts, I joked about it sometimes, and I made a video and talked about it being like food ingredients because, I'm a food guy. But the reality is they are catalysts because they are agents of change. They are... in chemistry, a catalyst is a substance that speeds up a chemical reaction or that accelerates a chemical reaction. That's what these things do for a person's faith.
Yeah. And at the minimum, it would facilitate it.
Yeah.
No matter what the speed even, but it does, just in the idea of it, it's meant to accelerate it.
Yeah.
And to make it go further. So.
Right. And so we've already covered 3 of those 5 catalysts. And so the first week, you talked about practical teaching. Mm-hmm. And so talk a little bit about why practical teaching is so important.
Well, like I tried to share that day. That was actually Easter Sunday. So, you don't come to Easter Sunday, which is the Super Bowl for every pastor, You don't come to that day and not talk about the resurrection. But we actually try to talk about the resurrection every Sunday because it's really the whole reason why the church exists in the first place. And so, but when I shared it that day, I really talked about the practical teaching of Jesus and that was the example. Really, he always taught with practical teaching. And that's one thing you need to understand. Teaching is great if it's just for knowledge's sake and knowledge's sake alone without application. And when I say application, meaning that it's going to transform your life, really, we kind of miss the mark on the teaching. Because if you're just giving knowledge without the way it's going to do it. And I understand that there is knowledge out there that is really good just for the knowledge's sake.
Yeah.
You need to know it. But in a case where we're talking about teaching from the Bible that Jesus really set the example for, it was always practical teaching to change lives. So, it's important. That's why here we will always teach for the practical.
Yeah.
And it's important because that's where people are living. That's where, faith intersects life. And we're trying to help people, their faith grow and their relationship with Jesus grow. And so if we're going to do that, we've got to be giving them practical teaching.
Yeah.
And so that's why we do that. And so I went off that premise when talking about and used John, John being the eyewitness to Jesus when he did all this practical teaching, and then he died. John was right there, and then John saw him buried, saw his body put in the grave, and then he saw him multiple times after he rose from the dead. And so it just validated all that teaching and the way he taught. Yeah. And so that's why it's important to us, because it was important to him.
Absolutely. It was important enough to him to write it down for us, record it, and so much more in terms of the persecution faced to carry on that message. Unbelievably important.
Many people gave their lives for practical teaching.
Yeah.
I want to say, but not many people will give their life over, just gaining academic knowledge.
Right.
Yeah. But if you gain something in knowing that and it gives you something practical to your life, you'd be willing to stand for it, live for it, even die for it. And that's what a lot of the early Christians did. And quite honestly, I know that there's a lot of people that are doing that even today in our world.
Oh, absolutely. Doing it still today.
Yep.
So speaking of practical, what are some practical ways that a person can make sure that they have this input in their life?
Well, obviously finding a local group of people that are doing that.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean what we would call a church in our culture in our day, and those have been around for obviously hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years.
But the idea is that finding something like that or a source of teaching you can trust. There's so much out there today and information available. Just like this podcast, there's many other podcasts.
Lots.
There's many other groups of people that are putting together what they would consider truth. And so we feel like we've got to make sure, first of all, the Bible should never be boring. So you want to be somewhere where it actually is breathing life into you.
Yeah.
The Word of God should be able to do that for you. And so you're looking for something like that, plus learning how to do that yourself.
Yeah.
And to be able to do it. But you got to be around a group of people for it. And the church is really, that's what it was set up for.
Right.
It was set up to do this, where there would be practical teaching on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So
And if you are a part of a local church or our local church, I believe that another critical, important piece of that is to be in a small group, a place where you can go even deeper into that stuff than you can do on a Sunday morning.
Right.
You need to be engaging in environments where practical teaching is being given to you, but you also need to be in environments where you're engaging in practical teaching that you can actually wrestle with and talk to other people about.
That's right.
And share your experiences about how you've seen those things play out in real life and work through that stuff together.
I realize, and I know you realize this, but any of us who ever in our regular services on a Sunday when we're all together and, stand up there for, 30 minutes, sometimes a little longer.
Sometimes a little more.
But trying to keep that, that time frame and respecting people's, really respecting their time, but also thinking about it from a standpoint, let's respect their attention spans and really what you can do. But you want to give them something that will be a practical, the practical takeaway. That would be the thing, the bottom line. Mm-hmm. But I know that in that 30 minutes, there's no way possible that I give enough for a person's daily walk for the whole week.
Oh, no way.
And so that's why it's important to be with another group of people where you can get feedback, or you can do that, and where you've got input into your own life individually. All of that's so important. It can't just be the one thing. So
right. Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for watching this clip from the Think On It podcast. If you would like to hear this episode in its entirety, check us out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, or just click on the link below to listen to the entire episode. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.